Hello, I'm Henry Keane and we are, as usual, UATV English. What we do is we debunk Russian propaganda with Ukrainian truth for all our global sake. Please help us by commenting, subscribing to our channel. Welcome to the News Pulse. Watch in the episode, Pope Leo and Ukraine. What's the future? Ukraine's naval drones hit Russian targets again. Pro-Europe path of Romania secured. Pope Leo was intronized. Well, first of all, it is beautiful, is it not? To watch a white man in his white luxurious Mercedes driving through a faithful crowd, giving his blessings, amazing. But what does it mean to embattled country, Ukraine? And it looks like the new Pope is way more inclined to end the war in Ukraine in a just way. Not only Pope Leo speaks publicly in an empathic way for Ukraine, but he actually acts like someone who understands that wars that are not ended in a just way are always coming back in a way more violent and ugly form. Pope Leo meets President Zelenskyy, and Pope Leo accepts an icon that was blessed not only with praise of Ukrainian defenders, but literally with their blood. It has been painted on a wooden part of an ammo box. It is as raw as it gets, and it symbolizes one thing and one thing only: Ukrainians' faith in themselves and in their freedom and sovereignty. And the fact that Pope Leo accepts this raw gift personally and puts it into a Vatican museum, and he does it with Ukrainian President Zelenskyy and the First Lady by his side, speaks for itself. And someone else is speaking. Also, Donald Trump speaks to Putin. It is a Trump-Putin call, or Putin-Trump call, depends if you are Republican or Democrat. It is going to happen after you watch this episode, which is late night here in Kyiv, so all we can do is to speculate for the moment a bit more about what is happening. Like, for example, the US President Donald Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, does.
I believe that President Trump is going to have a successful call with Vladimir Putin. They know each other. The president is determined to get something done here. So I leave it to the two leaders to have that call. Steve Witkoff, the US President Donald Trump's special envoy.
What we know for sure at the moment is that Putin refused to attend peace talks in Istanbul, and the Trump envoy refused to comment on Putin's refusal. However, Witkoff emphasized his belief in the success of the US-Russia conversation. Well, he is not the only one, obviously. And for more news from Rome, we get in touch with my dear colleague Saken Armorzaev, who is in Rome, obviously, today. For you, Saken.
Build bridges and seek common ground. From the first days of his papacy, Leo XIV engaged in significant diplomacy. Dozens of foreign delegations attended the pontiff's inauguration mass, many of whom are still in Rome today. This morning, Pope Leo received in audience United States Vice President J.D. Vance for 45 minutes audience, which Vatican described as very cordial. Later, the Pope met with representatives of Christian churches from all over the world, attended his inauguration mass. In his speech, Leo XIV spoke about the harm of economic models that impoverished people and strongly supported disarmament. The theme of peace is becoming central these days in Rome. After inauguration service, Pope received Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Ukrainian president. His country is suffering from war. The Ukraine leader invited Pope to Kyiv, to Ukraine, and thanked Vatican for its support. During the Mass, Pope Leo mentioned Ukraine and the war.
In Myanmar, new hostilities have claimed innocent young lives. The martyred Ukraine finally awaits negotiations for a just and lasting peace.
The Pope always emphasizes, in line of Catholic Church social teaching, that peace is not an abstract concept. Peace must be just to be lasting. Pope offered the Vatican as a platform for negotiations, a place for mutual understanding. The rich history of Vatican diplomacy will continue to play a significant role in global politics under the new papacy. Sakianay Murzaev from Rome.
President Zelenskyy and JD Vance met and discussed the situation on the front, preparations for the Trump-Putin phone conversation, and the possibility of sanctions against Russia if there are no results, a ceasefire. Said the official who was present at talks and spoke to the media on conditions of anonymity. It was very encouraging news indeed. And not only Americans and Ukrainians are not the only ones to understand how this war must end for all on global sake.
That is my general position, my general observation, and my general, very strong belief that Ukraine will prevail and will be victorious in this war. And peace will be achieved on Ukraine's part from the position of strength as Ukraine itself, but also from the position of the strong alliance that supports Ukraine. Piotr Łukasiewicz, Charge d'Affaires of Poland in Ukraine.
So we see how exactly the call ends, and we surely let you know about it. But just a quick thing here, if I may. Please consider it my own personal thing, as I am obviously abusing my occupation here, and that would be adding more of my own personal, outrageously biased, probably thought, to our news narrative today. Well, I guess from time to time you just have to break some laws to remind yourself about who you really are. So, no one is asking me, of course, but let us imagine that you did. Like you ask Henry, what is your personal perspective on Trump-Putin phone conversation? Well, thank you for asking. My answer would be, it's like when at the asylum for mentally challenged, a morbid narcissist meets a natural-born psychopath. And so to add a touch of free democratic choice to what I just said, I leave it to you to decide who is who here. A new record set in bad terms for the number of drones launched by the occupiers in a single night here in Ukraine. On the night of May 18th, Russian forces attacked Ukraine, sending 273 drones, including Shahid types and many others. The previous anti-record was set on February 23, 2025, when Russia launched 267 drones. The air raid alert in Kyiv lasted for 8 hours and 54 minutes. The longest alert in Kyiv today was 9 hours and 56 minutes, so Russians were just 2 minutes short.
A difficult night. The Russians have always used war and attacks as a means to intimidate others during negotiations. That's why they do everything they can to avoid a ceasefire, because war is their tool of manipulation. Andriy Kovalenko, head of the Ukraine Center for Countering Disinformation and Telegram.
A Ukrainian company, Full-Time Robotics, has presented a new development, the Slimbeam laser turret, designed to combat drones and other aerial targets. According to the manufacturer, Slimbeam has a power output of 1.5 kilowatts and can destroy targets at a distance of up to 1 kilometer. At longer distances, though, up to 2 kilometers, the system can effectively blind drone cameras, making it way harder for them to operate and navigate. The turret is controlled remotely via a special app which allows military personnel to maintain a safe distance and reduce the risks.
It's important that the beam is invisible and silent. This is an advantage on the battlefield. The military can use the laser for sabotage, burning through locks, conducting mine clearance, or triggering detonations from a distance. We are ready to develop more powerful lasers that can work over longer distances, but scaling up is required for that. Igor Andrusik, CEO, Full-Time Robotics.
And the Security Service of Ukraine has successfully destroyed Russian radar equipment at the storage in the Black Sea gas platform using drones.
Officers of the 13th Maine Directorate of the Military Counterintelligence Department of the SSU carried out a combined special operation using both sea and air drones. The target was Russian radar equipment located on Ukrainian gas drilling platforms. Within the same operation, SSU specialists used two types of drones, which demonstrated the effectiveness of paired operations. We once again reminded the enemy that no Russian trash belongs in the Black Sea. From the Telegram post of Security Service of Ukraine,
It was a double impact indeed, the intelligence report, but initially one of the rigs was hit by an air drone and then a sea drone also targeted it. As a result, the Niva radar system was completely destroyed. This radar was used by the enemy for monitoring air and surface conditions. Also, the storage facilities and the living quarters on the rig were destroyed. Drone reconnaissance team of the 4th Squadron of the State Bodyguard Service of Ukraine used Baba Yaga drones to destroy 6 vehicles in a shelter of Russian invaders in the Kyiv region. Watch it happening in action. On May 19th, during an overnight meeting in Rome with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese confirmed the fleet of second-hand M1A1 battle tanks is already on the way. That was also reported by the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. The first of the 49 vehicles loaded aboard a cargo ship recently, but the government is not disclosing the current location nor expected arrival dates for security reasons. The White House is not too happy with this decision of Australian authorities, although Washington officially gave the green light for the transfer. However, allegedly in private, American officials have responded that they, I quote, remain disappointed, end of quote.
Last year, even before Donald Trump returned as president, we warned the Australians that sending these Abrams tanks would be complicated, and once they finally get to the battlefield, the Ukrainians will find them difficult to sustain. One U.S. official to the AABC, speaking on the condition of anonymity.
Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles on Monday declined to confirm whether US officials have expressed any concern about the delivery.
We've been working very closely with Ukraine, very closely with the United States to see this shipment occur and to see the tanks be on their way. The first tranche has been on their way now for some time, but I'm not going to go into the specific details of that. Richard Marles, in a comment to the reporters in Melbourne.
Denmark has announced the 26th military aid package to Ukraine, totaling more than 4.2 billion Danish kroner, over 560 million euros, which will be implemented during the period from 2025 to 28, as confirmed by the press service of the country's Ministry of Defense on Sunday, May 18th.
The Ukrainian need for help and support has unfortunately not diminished. I'm happy and proud that we can again allocate funds for donations that will make a difference on the battlefield, both in the short and long term. Denmark has been a loyal supporter of Ukraine since the beginning of the war, and we will continue to be in the years to come. Troels Lund Poulsen, Minister of Defense of Denmark.
As part of the Nordic-Baltic support for Ukrainian brigades, artillery and ammunition will be donated. With additional funding for the Czech initiative in 2025, a large number of artillery shells will be purchased, allowing Ukraine to, obviously, plan a stable ammo delivery. Pro-European candidate Nikos Ordan has been elected as the president of Romania, defeating the far-right anti-Ukrainian candidate George Simeon in the May 18th runoff election. According to Romania's National Election Authority, Dan secured 53.6% of the votes, while Simeon received 46.4%. Voter turnout reached to 65%, the country's highest since 1996. The result comes as a strategic relief for Kyiv, a victory by Simeon, who heads the ultra-nationalist Alliance for the Union of Romanians, would have threatened Romanians' strong pro-Ukraine stance. Simeon has repeatedly voiced anti-Ukrainian views, called for halting military aid to Kyiv, and is personally banned from entering both Ukraine and Moldova.
It's your victory, you know. It is the victory of thousands and thousands of people who campaigned these days, who believed that Romania could change in the right direction. Don't forget, never forget the strength which you have proven these weeks, because together we will have things we have to get past.
Well, this result is obviously very important not only for Ukraine, but also for Moldova as an EU member state candidate that neighbors Romania, an EU and NATO state which has a substantive influence over the newcomers in the region.
Congratulations to Nicusur Dan on his historic victory in Romania's presidential elections. For Ukraine, as a neighbor and friend, it is important to have Romania as a reliable partner, and we are confident we will. By working together, we can strengthen both our countries and our Europe. We will always have great respect for Romania and its people, especially given the support we received during the most difficult period in our history. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine, on X social network.
Nicusur Dan is an independent centrist and current mayor of Bucharest, ran on a platform supporting EU integration, democratic reform, and continued aid to Ukraine, which he has called, I quote, essential for the security of Romania. Despite clear exit polls showing Dan's lead, Simeon refused to concede and controversially declared himself the winner on social media. Well, the way of the populist it is to run, to lose, and then to blame the opponents, of course. Simeon announced plans to challenge the results, echoing his campaign rhetoric against EU influence and NATO alignment again. Polls leading up to the election showed the candidates in a dead heat, with a May 13 Atlas Intel survey placing both candidates at 48.2%. And after losing the elections, Simeon recorded a video appeal stating that he will continue his work, whatever that means. Probably Simeon means his constant attempts to disrupt the EU integration process of Moldova and Ukraine.
It is time to continue our fight for justice, for truth, for the natural family, for Christian faith, and for freedom. We will continue to be an important and significant part of Romanian society. I urge each of you not to give up, to see this through to the end, even though it is hard to taste the bitter flavor of defeat. Romania and the Romanian people must come first. Thank you.
Romania has been one of Ukraine's key regional allies since Russia launched its full-scale invasion in 2022. Bucharest has provided both humanitarian and military support to Ukraine, including the donation of a US-made Patriot missile system in 2024. It has played a crucial role in facilitating the transit of Ukrainian grain exports, particularly as Russia threatens commercial shipping routes in the Black Sea. With Dan's victory, Romania appears set to remain firmly within the pro-European and pro-Ukrainian family, which is good news, obviously, for Ukraine, and it would be catastrophic, no less, if another Orban, leader of Ukraine neighbor's country, followed Viktor Orban's footsteps. We remember there's a diplomatic and espionage scandal, no less, between Ukraine and Hungary unfolding right now after 2 Hungarian spies were detained by the security service of Ukraine being accused of espionage. And the presidential elections in Poland is in full swing these days also. 2 candidates take the lead, Rafał Trzaskowski and Karol Nawrocki. Warsaw's liberal mayor has narrowly led the first round of Poland's presidential election with 31.1% of the vote. According to the exit polls, his conservative rival trailed closely at 29.1%. Since no candidate actually surpassed the 50% threshold, the two will face off a runoff vote on June 1st. Trzaskowski, a key figure in Prime Minister Donald Tusk's civic coalition, voted to push forward with liberal reforms, including on abortion and judicial independence, if elected. A win would give Tusk's coalition a chance to overcome legislative vetoes that have slowed the progress under current President Andrzej Duda. In turn, Nawrocki, a conservative historian and an amateur boxer, if you didn't know, backed by the Law and Justice Party, urged far-right voters to unite behind him to prevent Tusk from consolidating power. The runoff outcome may hinge on turnout, which candidate can better unite Poland's deeply polarized electorate and influence its policy towards Ukraine. Well, we will keep you posted. Well, that seems to be it for tonight. Thank you so very much for watching this episode. We appreciate your presence and your time. We know it's precious. Please like, share and comment. Let's debunk Russian lies together. It was News Pulse. Stay tuned and see you in the next beat. Goodbye.